I mean,
you're not going to welcome
recording.
people back? Yeah, we're recording. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Georgia Living. I'm Chris Evans.
Céline.
And we're so excited to have you here with us for episode 6. And today we are joined by our good friend and local mortgage expert, Rob Doerr with EHLA based in Roswell. Rob, hey, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
We're so happy to have you with us today. Rob's going to be joining us a little later for a mortgage update. We'll talk about some of the things going on in that side of the industry. And hopefully he'll chime into some of the conversation that we're going to have around our local community.
Rob's from here too.
Yeah. Born and raised, Roswell.
That's right. Well, East Cobb. I grew up in East Cobb. I'm Johnson
East Cobb.
Went to Walton.
You went to Walton, so you're East Cobb.
Now I just live right across the border in Roswell.
Yeah. We can walk to your high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually we can from here.
Yeah, from here.
Our Select Realty office is located right at Providence Road and Johnson, or Providence Road in Roswell.
Yes.
Right behind Sprouts and across from Target. So we could literally walk to Walton.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the parade route every year for their homecoming. Speaking of homecoming, this Thursday, starting at 5:15 through 6:30, if you live over near Pope High School, you're going to want to make sure you're home before 5:15 because they're going to be shutting down Hembry Road from Manor House to Pope High School. So if you live in any of those neighborhoods, either hopefully you can get in the back way or you'll get home in plenty of time to get out and line the streets because the homecoming parade starts and then it's going to end at 6:30 in Pope High School. And there's going to be a big community celebration. They're going to have food trucks. It's going to be a great time. So Céline and I and the kids, we're planning to be out there. We may have mom with us because she's right around the corner as well. And just lots of great stuff happening.
Before we really get started, I'm noticing there's a little bit of a lag on this video with the audio.
I can fix that in post.
Oh, you can? Okay, great.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that we match the audio.
Yeah, that's fine. But thanks for paying attention to that. Wow. Awesome, babe. So we've got one more game left in the season for Walton High School. They have their last home football game of the year. That's going to be this Friday.
Pope.
Walton.
Okay.
Pope has 2 games left. So Pope is playing Sequoia Friday at 7:30. We've got tickets. You can get your tickets on GoFan. They're $10 each, and they're playing Sequoia at 6:30. And then Pope's last game is going to be the following week. They have a game on 11/1 where they're playing Riverwood. But Walton is having their last game of the season this weekend, and that's going to be Friday, October 5th. It is this home? It is a home game. They're playing North Paulding at 7:00.
Okay.
So last chance of the year to see Walton play. You got 2 more chances to see Pope play, but the last one at home is going to be this Friday. So go Greyhounds.
It's called the Hound Pound, right?
The Hound Pound, yeah.
It actually has it on Google Maps. It says the Hound Pound.
Nice.
It's always just so fun. We love being able to go out and do things like this in the community and be right across the street from it.
That is really fun.
I
love hearing the band at night.
Yeah, all the time. We can go out on the deck and just listen and hear the band practicing. It is pure Americana where we live. I tell you, I tell everybody, I'm building my own little Mayberry here in East Cobb, and I really feel like that all the time. Before we get into some community events, want to give a couple of shout outs. One to Jones Heating and Air out of Woodstock, Georgia. I'm sorry, they're in Canton. But Jones Heating and Air just came and did a new AC unit for us here at the office. Did a fantastic job at a great price. Was really happy with everything that they did. So I've got
now that half of the office is no longer sweltering hot.
Yeah. Well, we're pretty fortunate. We have 4 different HVACs here. So when one's out, 3 are still working. Fingers crossed, hopefully. At least it was this case. But we were tired of putting all the Freon in. So we went and pulled the trigger and got a new HVAC. Community events. We got a lot coming up, y'all. We're done talking about October. There's a few things left. We know the Halloween celebrations. We've already talked about what's going to happen there in previous episodes. So we're going to think a little bit ahead. And starting Saturday, November 2nd, the Acworth Beer and Wine Festival is coming up. So this is going to be Saturday, November 2nd from 1 to 5. This is going to feature over 100 beers and more than 25 wines to sample, as well as live music, state food, college football on the big screen. My favorite. Speaking of college football.
What?
Go Dogs. Sick 'em. Ho, 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 ho. That was.
I'm not going to alienate like half the listeners here. I know.
If 50% of our audience are Texas fans, I'm okay alienating them right now. Horns down. Go Dogs. That was such an amazing game.
Yes.
Sorry, my ADHD meds. I don't know if they've kicked in yet, but we're going to get back to our community events. So it's 1 to 5. Tickets are $45 in advance, $60 the day of event. Tickets are going to include entry, entertainment, a souvenir cup, and all alcohol samples. Wow.
Is it going to be like a beer boot?
I don't know. It's a souvenir cup. 21 and up, no kids, no babies, no pets, no chairs. Small bags are okay. No outside food or beverage.
Well, I mean, that makes sense because what if you had a little kid, running up to a cooler and just yanking the beer and then running off with it, right?
Exactly. Oddly,
we had that at church one day.
Oddly, pretzel necklaces are okay. Rain or shine event, no refunds, free bottled water available. Beer and wine will be cut off at 4:45 p.m. This is taking place at Logan Farm Park, 4405 Cherokee Street in Acworth, Georgia. For more information, please email info@atlantabeerfestivals.com or visit acworthbeerwinefest.com. So that sounds like a great time. Let's see. We've got the Taste of Kennesaw coming up on November 2nd. Also, this is 2024, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. More than 30 different local restaurants and an expected 20,000 people will be on hand to sample delicious dishes. Food samples are sold in $1 increments from $1 to $4. While you are there, you can also enjoy live music on two entertainment stages throughout the day. This event you can bring the kids to and enjoy a wide variety of activities, including a rock wall, inflatables and slides, a trackless train, and more.
Oh, trackless.
Trackless, yeah.
Trackless.
In addition, restaurants.
So one of those mall trains.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's like a train with tires.
Yep, got it.
In addition, restaurants will also be competing for the recognition in the following categories. We'll have the best entree, best dessert, best food presentation, best decorated tent, and best appetizer. This is, again, November 2nd from 11 to 6 p.m. Rain or shine, admission is free. Food samples range from $1 to $4. This is downtown Kennesaw, 2829 Cherokee Street. Parking is available in the downtown area, Adams Park, and First Baptist Church of Kennesaw. For more information here, you can call 770-423-1330. I've got a whole list here. There's a lot of restaurants that are going to be there. So from Jamaican to Mediterranean, burgers, popcorn, barbecue, breweries, Italian. So get out there and eat.
Yeah.
Eat like you stole something.
Don't eat too much.
Eat it all.
Snow crabs?
Eat everything in Kennesaw in one afternoon.
That.
You can.
No.
All right. Let's see. Coming up. So right shortly after we get to consume all the beer and wine in Acworth and then all the food in Kennesaw, we're going to be celebrating Veterans Day throughout Cobb County.
Yay!
So we've got a few things that are happening. The first event is the Veterans Day ceremony in the city of Acworth. They're going to be doing on November 11th at 2 p.m. at Patriots Point in Cobble Park, the site of the esteemed Veterans Memorial, to pay tribute to the nation's heroes. This is going to be a free admission. Inclement weather, in the event of inclement weather, the location may change to the Acworth Community Center at 4361 Cherokee Street. For more information about the ceremony, please reach out to the Parks and Rec Department at 770-917-1234. The annual Marietta Veterans Day Parade is taking place on Saturday, November 11th. Whoops, hang on. That is not true. This is last year's date. Oh no. Where is this is Marietta. Why did this not come up correctly? Céline, do you know the date on this? Because we're actually in the parade
We are.
for this one this year. It is on the 11th. It is always on Veterans Day.
Yes,
The 11th this year is on Monday.
it is.
It is Monday. Oh my gosh, if I can find the times.
So it's about a mile walk.
It is a
and
mile walk.
We start from the Roswell First Baptist, and then we go around to the starting point. I will be in the DAR, Fielding Lewis chapter segment, I guess. I don't know what you call it. Group?
We'll be in the parade.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like, you have to be with a group, right?
Yes.
So we'll be with the Daughters of the American Revolution, and I will have a red trailer hooked up to a car. And then we will be pulling a whole bunch of daughters up that giant hill, because every year whenever I walk this parade, I have that giant hill to go up, and everyone's so winded after that. And then the darndest thing is that right after you go up that giant hill, you're out of breath, and then they announce you. So it's like everyone's just exhausted by that time. Especially, I can't even imagine band people going up that hill, like playing wind instruments, and then being at the very end and going, oh my gosh, my school is announced right now. But they do that. And then there's a ceremony right after the parade as well. So we are going to be there at 9 a.m. I believe the parade starts a little bit after that. Of course, we have to be there a little bit early to set up. And it's always so fun because you get to see all of the local groups that are staged there, and they're practicing. You can hear little tidbits of everything. When you're in the parade, you actually don't get to experience the parade because you're in it, and then you have that viewpoint that you're looking at the crowd, which I love too, but at the same time sometimes I do wish that I could see all of the really cool things. There's this one group, they're veterans of like a submarine group. Have you ever seen them?
Oh yeah.
They have this giant model little submarine on their float, and then they stand there. I think I last saw them at the 4th of July parade in
Decatur.
Yeah. We were in that parade too.
That was a big one.
Oh my gosh. That was huge.
I did find this year's
parades. You guys love the parades. Love it.
Yeah. And then there's East Cobb parade too that just happened. So there's so many around here. That's so great.
The date is the 11th.
Yeah.
The time is going to be 11 to 1. And this is going to take place around Marietta Square. So we've got it right here. This is the post29 marietta.org for the American Legion. So the parade begins Monday, November 11th, 2024 at 11 a.m. So be out there early, grab your seats. It's a huge event. Lots of people lining the streets. It starts around the Roswell church, the church on Roswell, the big
First
Baptist. Yeah, Roswell First Baptist. Everybody will stage there, and then it will go down Roswell Street and then wrap around the square. So if you're on the square, you can get a great view. And I don't know if they're going to do it this year, but in years past, the idea was for the parade to reach the square at 11:11 on the 11th. So lots of Veterans Day celebrations coming up. Make sure that you pay your respects. I hate that we're already talking about this, but we're about a month away from Thanksgiving.
Oh.
And Thanksgiving, with Thanksgiving comes all the running to get rid of the turkey. So registration is open right now for a couple of really cool events that happen on Thanksgiving. One is the Gobble Jog here in Marietta, which all proceeds go to support Must Ministries and all the great work that they do around our community.
So hold on back there. I think this is a really important point. I think we should actually talk about Must Ministries, because that has become a huge part of our community. And for those of you who are listening and who don't live in East Cobb area or surrounding areas, because really our podcast is hyper local. We're talking about street by street here. Must Ministries started off in a small church where my aunt got married. And can you look up the address? They just recently moved. So, anyways, the pastor Ike, oh gosh, I don't believe.
Do you want the new address?
Sure. I don't remember which church he's from, but they had a focus on helping the homeless because we had a little bit of a centralized place for all the people in Cobb who want to help these people. And so they've really spearheaded our area, and it's become a household name, Must Ministries. I don't even remember what the MUST was for because I learned it maybe 2 decades ago, and everyone just calls it Must Ministries. A lot of the schools collect for them. All the churches collect for them. A lot of the people volunteer for them as well. And it's kind of our local alternative to Goodwill or Salvation Army, because these are people who are in our community who we know personally. I mean, I don't think we've spoken to Ike since 6 years ago when we heard them at the Cobb Realtors.
Yeah. So
it's been a while.
Must Ministries currently celebrating 50 years of helping our community. So founded in 1971 by Reverend Wayne Williams, Must Ministries' initial programs included a grocery bus ministry for the elderly, a youth tutoring program, and an outreach ministries to alienated young people. Since its inception, Must has fulfilled Wayne's vision of connecting people who have a desire to help with those who need help the most. Today, Must encompasses more than 17,000 volunteers who are continually helping Must Ministries achieve its goal of being Georgia's most respected servant leader. So if you're interested in learning more about Must Ministries, you can check them out at mustministries.org. That's MUST.
It truly is a household name here.
Yeah, we do fundraisers for them all the time, and it's not really fundraisers, it's
collections.
No, like sandwich prep.
Oh, that too, yeah.
Yeah, during the summer for low-income families, the Must Ministries does a huge lunch program where they give free lunches to kids because, in the school system, a lot of times that's where some children get most of their nutrition. And what happens in the summer is they don't have access to that system. So right. Must Ministries does a great job of stepping up there. I know we've done sandwich workshops to make them and bag them.
They're incredible, like just giant 9-foot tables of like women and men putting together sandwich eggs and then just stacking them and then taking them to donate. And then they're consumed that day. They're gone.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So the Gobble Jog takes place. This is going to be Thursday, November 28th, 2024, Thanksgiving. You can register online. We'll put a link. It's on runsignup.com. But if you are a runner, there is a 10K timed run, a 5K, a 1K untimed. There is a trot for the little ones. And you can even sign up as a phantom runner, which I'm not a runner, so I have no idea what that means.
What's a phantom runner?
I don't know, but I'm just looking at the website and seeing what the signups are. So this is a great event. You can come out, run, or support those who are supporting Must Ministries. Acworth is also having their 2024 Turkey Chase. That'll take place on Saturday, November 23rd, with registration beginning in August. So November registration is still open. We will have a link to that event as well. And they will have an untimed fun run, a timed run, a little pilgrim trot. And then there will be a 5K, a 2K walk, and the little pilgrim trot.
This phantom runner thing must have been from the pandemic, because this is the definition. A ghost runner or phantom runner is a virtual runner in the 5K or whatever race that you are in.
So basically they're doing it at the same time.
It's virtually.
Just not there.
Do you run in place?
Can you do it on a treadmill?
I don't know. Maybe. Phantom.
All of these are questions.
Interesting.
Yeah. I could see how that came about in the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. We've got a couple of news issues I want to talk, or some things in the news around Cobb County I want to bring up. But before I do, I want to give a update that we are back in stock with our book From the Ground Up. Céline and I wrote this. Céline wrote this. I contributed. I helped build it. And so From the Ground Up, this is the story of how Céline and I built our wealth and have figured out basically how to invest in real estate. It tells what we did, what moves we made, and why we're on track to retire before 50. So if you're interested in this, you can head on over to hshbrands.com and place an order there. If you order it on hshbrands.com, you will get a signed copy of the book. Otherwise, it is available on Amazon. We also have a Audible of the book as well, and it's not narrated by us. We have a professional book narrator who did a fantastic job. And it's a quick read, about 100 pages. Again, From the Ground Up, how two millennial high school sweethearts created a multi-million-dollar real estate investment portfolio from scratch, and you can too. So get your copy today. Okay, so we've got a couple of things happening in Cobb County. One, early voting is happening.
Look at this. Look at this. What? I got
Been
it.
there, done that, got the sticker.
Except this time it says I secured my vote.
Rob, have you voted yet? I know you just got back in town.
My wife voted yesterday, and I plan on voting this week for sure.
There you go.
Yeah.
Civic duty.
Absolutely.
I don't
The
know.
lines are not that long. It's wonderful because we went to the senior center off of Sandy Plains.
Yeah, the Tim Lee Senior Center.
There's another location off of Roswell Road, near Cobb Parkway, and then there are a few other ones too. There's one
Lower
at Lower
Roswell. Yeah. So it's all over the place. You could just go to Google, find out where you can vote. Personally, I know Céline and I share the same sentiment. We wanted to get it over with so we can just ignore everything else.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's done. So we voted. It tally mark done. Whatever. We can focus on other things now, like this show, and talking to you about some of the things that are happening in Cobb. So interesting in the news is where did it go?
Okay. Let me preface this with, you came into the bathroom this morning while I was putting my makeup on, and you said, "Ooh, I have some really fun things to talk about."
There's tea. I got tea.
Tea?
Tea. Like gossip tea.
Oh,
Yeah.
that kind.
That
Because you
kind of
gave me a cappuccino this morning. I was like, that wasn't tea. Yes. So you came into the bathroom while I was getting ready, and you were saying that you had some really good things to talk about.
Well, I was just looking up what's happened in our community lately. I try to stay on top
But
of
I'm
this
worried
stuff.
because you were laughing really hard.
Well, I just realized that off Canton Road, there was a spa that was shut down.
What?
Yeah. Apparently they were advertising on an adult website and they were using unlicensed massage therapists.
Okay. I feel like this can happen anywhere.
And
Right?
yeah, so this actually took place this summer. It's not immediate.
Oh, okay.
But I just learned about this and I wanted to share it because I just find it odd and humorous that this is happening in our backyard. But there was the Asian Wellness Massage on 3372 Canton Road, Suite 110.
Oh.
Had its health spa license revoked and it had to close. Now it can reapply for a business license after 12 months.
Oh.
But Cobb is at the time that this was written this summer, and we're still within this time period, Cobb is observing a 6-month moratorium on issuing new health spa licenses.
Really?
Yeah. So there were 3 total spas that were going through issues with their business licenses, but this is the only one that was accused, apparently, of advertising on an adult website.
Oh my god.
Hey, Chris, let me jump in there because over in Roswell, they've had like a huge crackdown, and they literally, I think, over the past year or so, have closed down like 11.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy moly! What is happening in our backyards?
And one of them is
well-
right in front of the Home Depot that I go to on Woodstock Road, like right here in Roswell. I mean,
Has it
Weird.
shut down yet?
oh yeah, it's closed.
I'm just kidding.
Signs gone.
Wow, that's insane.
So we're a real community, just like we're real people. And no matter where you are, these things can happen. I have a feeling that they're cracking down because we had a major issue. What year was this when we had a shooter in Woodstock?
Oh, yeah, this was
Remember
during the
that?
pandemic when it was all that
Yes.
anti-Asian sentiment.
Yes.
Mhm.
And really, we're a community that's not anti-Asian or anything like that. No.
No, it's a huge Asian population around here.
Look right here.
Yeah.
This one. But we're a real community. It can happen anywhere. And we had this really bad shooting in Woodstock, which is one city above us in Marietta in Cherokee County. And it's a wonderful place as well. And sometimes these things happen. I think that guy was found mentally ill, or I don't know what was happening, but he had issues.
Oh yeah,
Big problems.
Nobody's doing stuff like that and not mentally ill in some way, shape, or form. All right, so that's what's happening around Cobb. We've got Céline. What have we been up to? I mean, I don't even remember. It's been so busy. Opening day of deer season started, so I got to take my son unsuccessfully hunting. It was hunting, not harvesting.
You were sitting.
Yeah, we sat and got a little time away with the boys, some mano a mano.
We don't hunt in East Cobb.
No,
there's no
it's
place
illegal.
to hunt
well,
here.
it's not illegal, but it's really hard. There's too many people, and you can't shoot. It would be archery only. You need land in order to do that. So we actually, we go out to a club. We've got about 100 acres. It's in Lexington, Georgia. So I got to drive through Athens and show James a little bit about our stomping grounds when we were in college.
Mhm.
But most importantly, we just got to hang out, have a great time together. After sitting in the blind for a little while, we started talking and laughing so much we probably scared off anything that was in a half-mile radius of us anyway.
Well, with that said, be careful when you're driving around here because there are deer wandering around
Especially
everywhere.
around Walton.
There's a little creek that goes by Walton, and at the beginning of deer season, without fail, they'll pop up, and they seem unfazed because it's illegal to hunt around here. There's just too many people.
And there's a lot of deer because of it.
Yes. And, we have creeks and streams, and we'll see them in our front yard coming and eating our hostas and, peeling stuff off of our trees, which can't do anything about it. You can shoo them away.
Trying to keep them away from the blueberry bushes.
But they're very, very not afraid of you in cars. So be careful, especially at night.
Yeah, absolutely. What else have we been up to since last week, Céline? Pumpkin picking. So last Sunday after church, we got a chance to go up to Berry Patch Farms in Woodstock. They're off of Arnold Mill Road. And one of our annual traditions, we've been there at least 3 or 4 times. And just a great time for the kids. They loved getting out. Céline, you even this morning you're talking about the kids and their actions. Why don't you tell about what they were doing?
So Berry Patch Farms is as far as my knowledge, the closest pumpkin patch to East Cobb. And it's called Berry Patch Farms because they do blueberry picking as well. So I think they started off with berries. But it's a family-owned little farm. We're not talking about thousands of acres here, like, somewhere in middle Georgia. We're talking about a Woodstock farm. So we're talking a few hundred acres. And they have really just enough. So if you've ever been a parent, sometimes too much is too much. So when you go there, they have just enough for maybe kids 0 to 6-ish. So there's a little area with farm animals, little pigs with cute little tails that are swooshing, of course, chickens, and it's a small little area. There's a little playground. There are a few options for snacks like cotton candy. There is boiled peanuts. They had that.
Oh yeah, pumpkin ice cream with toppings.
Yeah, and it's all really simple stuff. There's a little merry-go-round on the outside, and then there's the pumpkin patch. After you go around in the little tractor ride, goes around the property one time, and that was fun. I feel like you mostly inhale dirt, and that's why I'm sneezing and have a little runny nose right now, because it's been doing that ever since that ride. But the pumpkin patch is pretty sizable, and Scarlett, our middle child, she did not want to go on that carnival
the little merry-go-round thing.
If I could describe this thing, it doesn't have a top. It's rusty-like, and so it squeaks the whole...
Rustic.
I'm pretty sure it has rust on it, because every time it goes around in a circle, it starts like creaking, and you could... It's very dystopian.
Yeah.
Like, if this were at night, it'd be terrifying. Get on the circle.
It's definitely a homemade ride.
Yeah.
It looks like some antique little horse and buggies. The horses move slightly. Our youngest wanted to go on it. James went on with her. Scarlett's like, screw this. I want to go find a pumpkin.
So I went. Of course, our kid has to go to the very edge of this,
all the way to the back where
patch,
the biggest pumpkins are.
And get the biggest pumpkin. And then I looked at her because I had a white shirt on. I can't help, right? Because this is all laying in dirt. And then if I hold that, I have to hold it really hugging it. I'm not going to do that. So she was adamant. Every few steps, she would, squat down, take a deep breath, pant a little bit. Then she'd start back up again.
She's lugging this giant thing. It's about half the size of her until, I came over and picked it up and carried it for her.
Yeah, it took about good 3 minutes to get 10 feet.
So they're still open. If you haven't got your fix in for pumpkins this season, head on over, check out Berry Patch Farms in Woodstock. Very easy to get to from East Cobb. You just take Trickham, cross over 92, turn right on to... what's that street
Arnold
right there? You could go all the way up to Arnold Mill, cut across Barnes, turn right on Barnes, then turn right on Arnold Mill at Barnes, and it's going to be about a quarter mile up on your right. Careful getting in and out. It is a one-lane driveway. They usually have a police officer up there making sure and directing traffic. Their staff is fantastic. Parking's $5. They do take Venmo or cash. So
I want to talk about that area because... growing up here, a lot of people didn't go past Town Center Mall.
Yeah.
They thought that was the edge of the earth. And where Whole Foods is right now in Kennesaw, that was just all woods.
Yeah.
Just all pine trees. And you can actually Google on YouTube. No, you can search on YouTube old videos of our area, and you will be amazed at how much has grown. And that area in particular, that Arnold Mill area, it was known, and it's still known for these huge, I like to call them pasture ornaments, hobby farms, right? Where they're just a big patch of grass. They've got their favorite horse there, not really doing anything. Maybe the daughter's into horseback riding or something, but not a true farm, right?
not a working farm.
No, not a legitimate, farm. So those still are there, and it's very scenic. But when we went to that berry patch to get the pumpkins, I saw a lot of new construction there.
Yeah.
And it seems like Metro Atlanta is... We don't have a lot of land left in East Cobb, so being the next city over, they're really starting to clear some of that land, put in some really big houses, the price point that I saw for one of the neighborhoods near the berry patch was 700s, I want to say.
Yeah.
800s. It's all around there, and they're all single family homes too.
Arnold Mill is a great area. That whole community. I used to manage a few properties around there. It's a good mix. You have new construction. You have some more older established neighborhoods. And the great thing about Arnold Mill is that you can take Trickham right there and come into East Cobb, where, you know, we're a lot closer to Metro Atlanta. You have convenient access to 92, which will take you, you know, from Acworth to Alpharetta. And Arnold Mill dead ends into downtown Woodstock. So if you want to go and experience downtown Woodstock and all that has to offer,
Which has also grown in
oh my
itself.
God, it's huge. I mean,
Huge.
Rob, why don't you tell us a little bit? What are your impressions of what has happened in Cherokee over the last few years? Because, you know, I experienced it from Woodstock or from West Cobb. What do you think?
I mean, I've been here my whole life. In East Cobb, and there didn't used to be anything around. So all these areas that like you said, Céline, like everything used to seem like it was the end of the earth, and now it's just like you're like, oh my gosh, like and there's really no natural boundaries, so it's kind of like it's just going to keep moving out, right, until it hits the mountains, and even up there it's blowing up, you know. So yeah, I mean, there's a huge demand to live here, and there's not much more land to build on, so I think it's just going to continue growing like that, right?
I think the technical word is urban sprawl.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it depends on what camp you're in. I mean, if you're a naturalist and you really love, you know, keeping all those forests there, then you're against urban sprawl. But then again, we don't have oceans here preventing us from expanding. We don't have a lot of barriers. I mean, we do have the northern mountains, but
they're more like hills at this point.
They're still pretty far away. Still plenty.
Yeah, you got to go a little further north. We've got the foothills of the Appalachians in Georgia.
Yes, so it's actually said that the mountain range that we have a long time ago was attached to the mountain range in Scotland. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Pangea. Yeah. the days where it was all interlocked.
Wow, we're going that far back.
That
today.
far,
Wow.
yeah.
Woodstock really wasn't developed back then.
There was no Woodstock. Yeah, so that has a lot of similarities with Scotland's hills. And if you've been to Scotland or if you've been to North Georgia, you'll see that it's been very worn down over the years. And I'm not talking about 10 years. We're talking about millennia.
Well, it doesn't hurt that, you know, Appalachia was founded by, you know, a bunch of Scotch and a bunch of Irish people too. So it's kind of like the same, but different.
Yeah.
So Rob, we're so happy to have you. I know we've tried for the last couple of weeks to coordinate this. We're glad that we've got the schedule and you're here. Y'all, Rob has, I've worked with Rob for the past few years on lending, and he does some insane stuff. All great, all unbelievable in terms of timeline and things like that. But this morning, before we start talking shop, I want to introduce you to everybody and let them get to know you a little bit. So Rob, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what makes you Rob Doerr?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, like I said, I grew up in East Cobb my entire life until I got married, and then just moved right over to Roswell. And I have two boys. One goes to Roswell High School. He's a senior. I have another 11-year-old that goes to Roswell North Elementary. He's a senior in elementary school, if you want to call him that. And I've been in lending for a long time. Like 25 years. So I've been through the ups and the downs and the crashes and the good times and the bad times. And
so you've seen some stuff.
I've seen some stuff, and I'm surprised I'm still alive. So, but no, so the thing about it is, like, I think one of the most important things is having that much experience, because it is a hard business and there is a lot of stuff that can go wrong. So as smart as you are and as good as your company might be, it really takes years of, you know, oh my gosh, I never thought that would happen, or, you know what I mean, to look out for all the pitfalls. And that just allows you to kind of avoid all the nightmare scenarios you've heard about in the past, you know. And then also, I finally found a place as of a few years ago where I'm working now, where I never thought, like Chris was saying, we get some crazy stuff done. Like I never knew a place like this existed. So for most of my career, I spent at two companies, Countrywide and Academy Mortgage. And although they were great companies, they have a very small box full of products and what you can do and rates and that sort of thing.
Very corporate.
Where I'm set up now, we're not a broker, but we still have the benefit that a broker would have in the fact that we can still use, we have like 15 different investors that we use. So there's always a product available to fit everybody's needs. And then most importantly, or also as importantly, is when I price somebody's loan out, I just go straight to the top of the page and pick which investor has the best interest rate for that day, because rates are always different, with different investors. So rates tend to be better than you can find anywhere as well, which is obviously a huge benefit.
Oh, definitely. And, a lot of what you've found in kind of the time and experience that you've put into the industry, we see that on the residential side as well. When you're working with a lender who's new and hasn't experienced all of the pitfalls and perils that we know that you've been through, like it's a completely different experience when something goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we're glad to have you here, Rob. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
Rob is our preferred lender here at Select Realty, right down the street. I know that, when Céline's cousin was getting his mortgage, I think Rob got us a clear to close in like 4 calendar days, pending the appraisal results, which came back on the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in the middle of the crazy pandemic, right?
We get some good stuff done. Yeah, that's what I mean. And we're a smaller company too. So what I've also found out is that the smaller you are, the more nimble you are, and it's easier to make decisions and not have to jump through all the red tape that you do at some larger companies. It's a lot.
We know.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
we know.
Being a family-owned and operated company, we are right there with you. We know exactly how you can make those moves. And, in this market, with all the changes that we've had, going from this insane pandemic to where everything stopped, to this huge buying frenzy, to this inflationary period where, again, everything stopped. It's very much been a start and stop real estate market for the last 4 years.
Yes.
And on very extreme ends of the spectrum. So when it comes to being competitive, making offers with your buyer, having a tool in your pocket as a realtor, like a lender like Rob, where you can get things done fast, allows us to be extremely competitive and successful for our clients. We've been able to win offers in the past because of our timelines in the contracts, where we can say, all right, we're going to ask for a 6-day due diligence. And for whatever reason, we check with Rob and we're like, hey, can you get this done right now with your workload? And he's like, yes. So we go in, we're like 6-day due diligence. We're wrapping up the appraisal, the financing, and the due diligence inspection in that timeline. And sellers love that because they're like, oh, you mean I can be locked in 7 days?
Yeah.
Worry about anything?
Well,
For sure.
I love that we have as a community. Yes, we have the generic stuff, PetSmart, Whole Foods, all those generic America stuff that some people don't like, right? If they like living out in the country, they just want their land, they want peace. And then they tend to gravitate towards mom and pop shops, local community centered organizations, companies, any of that. But we're a great mix of that. Like Rob, for example, smaller company, not, giant or anything like that. So really all walks of life can be served here in our community.
Absolutely. And just like real estate, right? You have the national franchises. They're everywhere. The big box real estate
we have
companies, they're all over the place. Are they as nimble?
No.
Probably not. Are they as flexible on their rates? Definitely not.
Sometimes, yeah.
But rarely. And, is all of the money staying local in the community? Absolutely not. Because you're paying a national franchise and they're going to be headquartered in Maryland or Texas or somewhere else. And that leaves our community. real estate's hyper local. So we believe in using local and working local and supporting our community here. So Rob, thanks for the introduction. It's great to get to know you a little bit. Why don't what's happening in lending right now? I know that we got the Fed reduction a little while ago, and rates are up and down and up and down. tell our listeners like what's happening.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's really a tricky kind of thing that most people don't understand how it works. So when people hear that the Fed cuts the rates, right, they're not cutting mortgage rates. And oftentimes rates will already adjust before the Fed speaks because they kind of know what the news is going to be. So for instance, the last time the Fed came out a few weeks ago or a month ago, whenever it was, rates were in a really, really good spot because they knew that rates were going to be cut. And so they'd already adjusted on that news. Coincidentally, once the Fed came out and said they were cutting rates, guess what happened? Rates did not go down. They've kind of gone up since then at a steady pace. So it's hard to pinpoint. A lot of times, after the Fed speaks and says they're lowering rates, they will go down. But in this case, it really just more depends on what's going on in the markets every day. So like every day I'm watching the mortgage bond market, and depending on what the mortgage bond market is doing, rates will adjust accordingly every day based on that. So, it's been kind of funky. I mean, rates are higher now than they were when the Fed cut rates, in quotation marks. But there are more rate cuts to be coming by the end of the year. So I think we're going to see that trend down again and be in a good spot. We're still in a good spot. I mean, rates are, mid 6. They were around 6 or just below. So they haven't jumped up, ridiculous amount. But at the same time, we'd like to see them, obviously, the lower the better. So we were liking to see it around 6 or less, obviously, but I feel like we'll be back there very soon.
I think, my background being in finance before real estate, I used to be a licensed stockbroker. So I follow this stuff too. We watch Bloomberg News almost exclusively in our house because we follow the money. And mortgage rates don't actually follow the Fed. They tie more closely to the 10-year treasury because to an investor, the 10-year treasury is a very comparable opportunity cost. So you can invest in the 10-year treasury, you can invest in mortgages, and they're going to provide similar returns to the investor on the secondary market because your mortgage doesn't last 30 years, right, Rob? What's the average turnaround time for a mortgage or the life?
I mean, it's a mixed bag, but I would probably say, between refinancing and relocating and that sort of thing, I mean, probably 5 years,
Yeah. So if your average person is going to keep a house 5 years, the mortgage is going to pay off. So it's not a 30-year investment timeline for the average investor. It's going to be shorter. 5, 7, 10 years, and that's going to follow the 10-year treasury. So when rates had come down on mortgages before the Fed announcement, one thing I noticed is that the 10-year treasury was also down. Mm-hmm. That was down. I think that was down to 3.8 or something like that. So when we're following this Fed, it's really not the Fed that impacts the mortgage rates.
Correct.
Rob, these loans are generally sold off afterwards. Can you explain how that works and why it's kind of important for it's not really, how do I phrase this question? Can you explain how the mortgage process works after you get a mortgage? What happens?
Sure. It's just the way the nature of the business to where, a company will lend money. They can't keep lending money or they're eventually going to run out, right? So they lend the money, then the loans get sold off to a mortgage servicer randomly. I mean, it happened to me. I've had my mortgage for 5 years and just out of the blue, I just got sold off to Round Point Mortgage. You know what I mean? So It's something you can't really control. I take that back. There's certain investors that we use where you can make sure the servicing stays with them. But generally, if the rates are higher, then what's the point? We always try to get the best rate with the best payment. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I mean, a servicer, their only job is to accept the payment, So
that's you buy the mortgage 3 months or 30 days, 90 days after you close, you get this letter in the mail. Your mortgage servicer is now this company.
Yes, correct.
And that's basically that your loan has been sold off, and this company is not the person that holds the loan. They are just the third party that collects your payment.
Correct.
They'll foreclose on you if you don't pay. And they do all this for the investor that owns the note on the back end.
Correct. Yeah. So they are literally just the servicer, just who you send your payment to. And honestly, some of them are good, some of them are not that good, but it's just kind of a random bag of who they sell to. Generally, the investors that we use sell to like a PennyMac or something like that, a larger company, and they do a good job servicing. So, but people also get a little freaked out about it. It's not a big deal. It's just where the payment gets sent to.
Yeah. All that you got to worry about once you get the mortgage is make that payment.
Yeah, you just got to payment.
You won't stay. So, Rob, talk to us about like what do some buyers need to know right now? If somebody's thinking about buying a home in Georgia, they're either relocating here or they've been kind of sitting on the sidelines. What do you tell them now?
I would strongly tell them that I don't see prices coming down. Some people are like, I'm going to wait until prices go down. Well, you know what? If you're in a desirable area like East Cobb or Woodstock or Acworth, I don't see prices going down. Do you? I mean, I just don't. There's too much demand and there's not enough inventory.
We already had the correction.
Yeah. So, and then the other side of it is some people say, well, I'm going to wait till rates come down. Well, rates are already still in a very good place. If you wait until rates go down, and you're looking for a $400,000 home, well, guess what? If you wait till rates go down, that house is now probably going to be $430 because rates are lower. There's more demand. The seller can ask more for the house. So it's always in the last few years, it's always better just to secure the house right now, not worry about the rate so much because we know the rates are going to be trending downward. So I strongly recommend to purchase the house that you want now. And then when rates go down, you just refinance at a lower rate. And then you've kind of won on both ends.
For our area, yeah, that's a good thing. We're not talking about outside of Metro Atlanta, though.
We're not even talking outside of like the East Cobb and surrounding Northwest Metro area.
Right.
Yeah,
because every community is different. Consult your professional, get the data, know what the trends are. And then one of the things that we always tell our clients is understand your timeline because real estate valuations can fluctuate. It's not unheard of. There's been 7 years in the history of real estate, in the last 80 plus years, there's been 7 years where real estate values have declined or been flat. 1990, they were flat. 1991, they went down by 1%. The other 5 years happened during the global financial crisis. So real estate is, generally speaking, a safer investment and less risky than others. However, it's not without its own risks. So think about your timeline. If you're going to buy a house and only live in it 2 years, that might not be the smartest decision to make. But if your timeline is 5 years or greater, even if prices do take a slight dip, they're probably going to recover by the time you are ready to relocate. The recovery time on average for Atlanta was about 5 years during the global financial crisis. There were pockets that took 7, 8, 9, but there were others that recovered within 1 to 2.
I have a question for Rob. So in our area, we don't have a lot of land left. If we do come across land, it's one of those very rare pieces where they've held on to it for generations.
Been in the family.
And an example is like, I believe one of the stables off of Roswell is selling, and they're selling their land for $3 million. And it looks like a neighborhood can go in there. But most of the time when people want to come here, we don't have a lot of townhomes. We don't have a lot of condos here in our immediate area. And so with that said, the alternative is to find some of those 60s homes that are, a little bit older, or maybe even 70s, depending on their condition, and to tear that down and to build a new construction.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing that a lot in our area? Or because I'm noticing a few of them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, in certain neighborhoods, in Indian Hills, right? You've seen a lot of new construction in there, big huge houses that are selling in the 2 million range, especially over where I live near Canton Street. And there's a lot of A lot of those houses, almost every one is a small ranch with a carport, and they're all being bought and torn down, and nice big houses being built on them. So yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So what's is it different for people who are coming and moving in, or even moving in from another metro part of Atlanta? What is the lending process there? Because that they would have to tear it down. It's not like that building's already built.
Correct. So yeah, then it would be considered a construction loan, which is, it's not much of a different process. It's a little more detailed just because, you have to get, approval to wreck the home, and the blueprints, and those have to be approved, and the builder has to be approved. So it's a little more intensive, but it's still not that difficult of a process, and we have.
Where do they start?
What do you mean?
So if somebody is eyeing a property, right, and it's it's a tear down, and they really like the lot, like how do they start this process? Do they call an agent? Do they call you? Do they call a foreman?
No,
what do they do first?
You would still have an agent to secure the property, just like any other resale, and then we would just do the financing. They would pre-approve for the mortgage, and then the investor would give money to purchase the home. Of course, you still have to put something down, 5%, 10%, depending on the sales price and that sort of thing. And then they would supply the money for the loan, and then it comes in draws. So the builder would have to be approved, and the builder usually gets 3 or 4 draws, which means that there's a certain amount of money given up front to, wreck the current home and then pour the foundation. And then once you get to that certain point, they'll send an inspector out to make sure that work is completed. And then they'll release the second draw to do the second phase. So like I said, it's usually 3 or 4 draws until the home is complete. And then at that point, then you would convert it into permanent financing from construction financing.
And then the timeline, is it months? Is it years? What are you seeing here?
No, for approval, like Chris said, we can close a loan within a week. These loans are a little more intensive. So, 30 days, I would say.
So more typical financing. And 30 days is great for a new construction loan, because we did one and it took about 60 with our bank when we were building the cabin in LJ. And that was before we got to meet Rob, because a lot of mortgage lenders actually don't deal in new construction. That's one of the challenges. So the draw process is something that, as the owner, you have to pay attention to, and your builder has to be kind of lockstep with you, because the builder has to manage the money, because the bank's not going to release more until they complete certain stages.
Correct.
So now, Rob, in new construction, and I like that we're on this topic, because since the pandemic, we've seen more people leaving urban, moving to suburban, and suburban moving to rural, getting their little piece of earth and then building their dream. So that's become very prevalent. When people acquire, or if they want to go and build a house, do they buy the land first? Do they buy the land and wrap that up into the loan for the new construction? Is it all part of one? How does that work?
That's a great question. And so either the buyer would purchase the land, the lot, and own the lot, and then they would just get financing to build the new home, or you could get the loan to acquire the lot and build the new home. So they offer both products.
Either or. So it really depends.
Yeah, it just depends. Every situation is a little different, but yeah. So they could either buy the lot and just finance the actual house build, or they could purchase the lot and build the house under one umbrella mortgage.
Awesome.
We have a lot of subdivisions here, but we also have a lot of side streets that are not subdivision houses. So a lot of those are exactly in this category of tear down and then build back up, because our land value is what now, Chris? How much for an acre? 200?
East Cobb, depending upon the school district, you can. Location size could be anywhere from $150,000 to $400,000 an acre. Location and topography and features of the land are going to factor into that. Also, community, right? You're not going to.
Yes, we have variables, but
there's
generally
a lot of it.
It's about 150 to 200.
About 250 to 300 in East Cobb for Pope and Walton. You might
Last year too.
yeah. So somewhere around there for the whole acre. So if you're looking at a half acre lot, 150, somewhere in there, 100.
Compared to if you're looking at 1 acre in LJ, that's about
2,500 to 8,000, maybe 10.
depending on what it is.
Yeah. So it's all about the infrastructure, the community, the amenities, as they always say in real estate, location, 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 right? So, Rob, earlier you had mentioned that you didn't think prices were coming down, and, you would recommend buying when the opportunity's there. And I think, we covered a few weeks ago the stats showing that our inventory levels for Metro Atlanta are the highest that they've been since pre-pandemic levels. So the homes are there to choose from. We have fewer buyers. So I know we've been able to negotiate some great things for our clients. That gives them a better cost basis on the house.
Mhm.
Over the last year, have you seen that people have been able to refi and save money as this inflation has settled?
Yes.
What have you seen there?
Yeah, good question too. So when rates did come down to the lowest point that I've seen recently, like a month and a half ago, I was able to refinance a handful of people that had bought when rates were in the 7s. So it's all kind of relative, and we would try to save you as much as we can on a refinance, especially if we think rates are going to keep coming down. For these certain folks, they were at 7.5, 7.375, and we saved them, almost a full point on the mortgage, which is enormous. So for those folks, it made total sense, and I think we timed it right. For some other folks, we were really close to where it still made sense, but I feel like, we could do a little better for them if rate taking a little dip.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on where they purchased and where the rate was initially, it just, that kind of factors into where it makes sense. If you can save a full point, it's just 100% no brainer to refinance. But even if you save a half a point, or whatever, that's still monthly savings. And then once you do close on a refinance, you do skip a month's payment also, which is kind of nice for folks, to skip a monthly payment, right?
So there's a couple of questions I want to ask you about this. First off, when rates drop, buyers may be thinking, well, I'm going to have to get another mortgage. I'm going to have to go through the process all over again, and it's going to cost me more money. What's that process really look like for somebody who bought maybe 6 or 9 months ago and now they're going through the refi? What do their out of pockets look like? How much, and how do you determine whether or not it's worth it to save the money?
Yeah, sure. Good question. So with, for instance, the folks that I did refinance, I would say regardless of their sales price or their loan amount, most of them were between $300,000 and $500,000 in that range. Total closing costs. When you do a refinance, closing costs are a lot less. Okay. If you use the same lender, you don't have to pay the title insurance again, which is the big chunk of it. So the cost of refinance are cheaper than when you purchase. And then also, we're able to choose our own closing attorney that will charge less and that sort of thing. So we try to minimize the cost as much as possible. A lot of times we'll get an appraisal waiver, at that point, so we wouldn't need to charge for an appraisal again. So for all these folks, I think their total cost was in the $2,000 range, just over $2,000. But then think about it, if your mortgage payment is $3,500 and you're skipping a payment, it's almost like it's you're doing it for free. Yeah. Also, a lot of times we could do what's called a no-cost refinance, which means, let's say if rates are 6%, well, we could absorb all those closing costs for you and maybe just bump the rate up a teeny bit for us to be able to do that. So maybe instead of 6%, you get 6.25%, but then we would cover all those closing costs and it would truly be a no-cost refinance. So I've been in my home for 20 years and I've refinanced it 4 times, and I've done a no-cost refinance every time just because, I don't want to pay those closing costs and then 6 months later rates go down and I'm refinancing again, and I just kind of wasted money on those closing costs from before.
Makes sense. And there's generally 2 types of refis. You have your cash out and then your rate and term. Do you explain the difference to our audience about those two? Because it's a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. So rate and term is when you're basically just taking your current mortgage payoff and you're just refinancing that amount with the closing costs added in. So if you owed if your mortgage loan payoff was 300 and there was $2,000 in closing costs, your new loan amount would be, say, 302, and you're literally just taking the current balance and refinancing it into a new payment. On a cash refinance, which you're seeing these days, because a lot of people are, in a lot of credit card debt and that sort of thing. They will do a cash out refinance, which means you're allowed to pull out, say, up to 80% of the home's value. You can do a cash out refinance and take whichever money you need to pay off whatever existing debt you have. So, if you have credit cards with a 25% interest rate and you can refinance at 6% and pay those credit cards off, obviously a huge savings and a much, much smarter thing to do.
So say you bought a house 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and the mortgage rate was like 7.25%. And over the last year and a half, maybe you've got an extra $30,000 in equity if you're in a great area, and rates have come down. So in a situation like that, Rob, based off of what you just said, would it be that somebody could potentially take out some more money, some of that equity, because rates have dropped, keep their payment generally the same, and then maybe pay off some extra debt?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, if you're saving anywhere close to a full point, that's going to save you a lot, a good chunk on your mortgage payment every month, and it's going to eliminate those credit card payments on top of that. So yeah, it definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, Chris knows this. He's asking you because, we both firmly believe that financial literacy is not taught enough in schools. And
From the ground up, how two millennial high school sweethearts created a multi-million-dollar real estate investment portfolio from scratch, and you can too.
It's a great book, for sure.
No, but we really don't have many opportunities in our, not knocking the Cobb County school system or Fulton County or anything like that, because they do an excellent job, but just the curriculum itself, almost nationwide, doesn't have enough financial literacy. And when you say financial literacy, it really is speaking another language. Some of you listening might have, dozed off saying, oh, wah. But like I said, it's another language. It's
the language of wealth.
It is the language of wealth. And if you are going to get anywhere, you need to be fluent in it. And I've got to admit, watching Bloomberg in the morning when I was first starting out in real estate, I was not into it because I was a biology major. I went to veterinary school. They're notorious for not focusing on business or finance because we're all just so concerned about living things and cascades and cycles and molecules, all of that. And there's just no time for financial literacy. But just like reading English, we need to learn this stuff. And yes, you know it. You went to finance, school, Terry. You got it. But a lot of people don't. So if you have any questions, feel free to email us. We will answer you the best of our ability. But we really do preach financial literacy as a tool to better yourself.
It's so funny that you just brought that up in the way that you talked about it, because I know that you weren't with me and the kids this morning, but we were listening to the Big Deal podcast with Cody Sanchez. I was introducing her to the girls who are 6 and 8 years old, because Cody Sanchez is this wonderful role model. She was an investment banker on Wall Street, in the deal-making sector. She left the street. She buys and sells and builds businesses and has the Big Deal podcast. We're listening to her episode this morning, The Harsh Truth, Why You'll Never Make Money. And she's talking about finance as a language and compares it to, if you took a Spanish course in class in high school, you're not going to know the language like somebody who speaks it every day. Because the difference between like fluency and, knowing a few things about it is application. you have to use it, you have to apply it, you have to live it and build it. And so if you want to learn more about this, one, call us. We'll answer any questions that we can to help you or give you great resources. But also check out the newest episode, because it really is a great listen. And if you've got some girls, I think that Cody Sanchez is a great role model.
Piggybacking off of that, I really do think that people don't understand how much they need people who speak fluently in finance. There are way too many agents who don't, and way too many lenders who don't. So make sure that whoever you are going with to help you along with creating your wealth, whether it's real estate or whatever it is, that these people really speak fluently in what they are dealing with. There are too many duds out there that you don't want to mess with your entire generation of wealth and trust them with it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we could talk about some real estate agent mishaps on a future episode.
There are a few, yeah. Maybe later, but not now.
Well, Rob, before we wrap up, why don't give us something to leave the audience with for you and lending, and give them a nugget of wisdom that they can take and apply to their life today.
You know what? I think I would probably touch on it can be very overwhelming, and it is good to talk to somebody, that can help navigate you through the process. At the same time, it doesn't have to be as overwhelming as it seems it can be. So oftentimes it just depends on how detailed the person wants to get. I can have an approach as to hey, it's really a simple process. Let me worry about all the stuff that matters. I'll point out the very important things that you need to know. But at the same time, I feel like some lenders just go way overboard with explaining things to the point where the borrower is just like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what you're talking about. But my approach is to keep it very simple, unless the borrower wants more information on certain detailed things. So it's really not that hard of a process, and I can help keep it simple for you. But I'm always available to answer anybody's questions. So please let me know of anything I can do to guide you in the right direction.
All right. Rob, drop your contact information for our listeners.
Okay, so my cell phone number is 404-771-0341, and my email address is rdoerr@ehla.com. And
we'll have all of that in our show notes.
Yeah, D as in Doerr.
D as in Doerr.
Yep.
All right, Rob, thank you so much for your time today. Everybody, thank you for tuning in to Georgia Living, where we talk about everything that makes Georgia home.
Bye, y'all.
It's been a pleasure.